I remember I get those like chewy chocolate chip cookies or whatever, and I
Oh
only have
no.
one or two each night, and then
Yeah,
before I
yeah.
know it, I ate the whole freaking package in a single night, and I'm like,
Yup.
wow, wait, what did I just do?
You're like, oh no. It's like I'm gonna
I
be
just
a
ate
fucked
like
horse.
4,000 calories worth of cookies here
I
in like
know.
an hour and a half.
But
Yeah,
but
dude.
there's like eggs and milk and stuff. They're like kind of good for you. They got protein.
Eggs and milk are actually the worst things you could ever
Yeah.
No, there's
eat.
come on, don't ruin the fat fun. But yeah,
AJ, I got a question for you. It's not about painting. It's about your diet.
Yeah, sure.
Because you told me you were doing like fish now too. Do you find that's
Uh-huh.
like helping? Because like I went vegan, but like I'm worried about getting like protein intake or whatever.
No, that's it's not a good argument. Protein, you can get plenty of protein from just plants. The argument that you hear people talk about is like fucking lions, bro. Like they eat lots of meat. They're buff, and it's like rhinos,
Gorillas.
yeah,
elephants,
gorillas.
gorillas. The fuck do they get their protein? And some of the biggest goddamn mammals, land animals, actually eat veggies tails, dude. That's all they eat. You know?
Moose.
Yeah, Godzilla versus Kong, dude. Vegan versus carnivore. No, I think even like that breed of lizard are not necessarily incredibly carnivorous. And if you even look at the animal kingdom, the animals like lions and tigers have a much shorter lifespan than something like an elephant, right? Or even their prey that they eat, like zebras. So that's not a thing. That's just like that is clearly industries lying to y'all. You know, they're just lying.
I know a vegan who is actually also a part-time muscle builder, like bodybuilder.
Yeah, it's not a thing. So the reason why there's a facet to it. So I was never opposed to eating fish in terms of its nutritional value, because there's a lot of merit behind it because of the diet, specifically the Mediterranean diet. They actually
Okay.
some fish, and if you look at early versions of the Japanese diet, not recently, they've started being more westernized, so they're starting to get them badass diabetes, that American style diabetes.
Yep.
But there's some good evidence, regardless of how many vegans would say that it's not as good as people think. Like, yeah, but it's not as bad either. You know, like when we look at some of the longest living people on here that tend to happen to eat that. So for me, it was never really that big of a deal, but there was an ethical argument that just made sense to me too. And I was never a big fish person too, by the way, even before, right? So what happened was that you know, remember how I had my brain surgery? And so
Yeah, I remember that.
So specifically, I have something called acromegaly, and so acromegaly is the giant's disease. It's basically you just keep growing, like not in height necessarily, but like in all sorts of other ways, right? For instance, like my hands just will never stop growing. Apparently, they'll just keep getting more and more massive. I went up like a shoe size, you know, like these types of things. But this is also including just like bad stuff. Like if your heart keeps growing, then you'll have an enlarged heart. This is how most people who have Giant's disease tend to die, actually, because their heart's too big and they'll just stop. And that's one of the symptoms. It's just sudden death. It's a hell of a symptom. Yeah.
Wow.
So what ended up happening, downshiftology, healthy eating, live and travel.
Oh yeah, these are. I was sorry for interrupting. Yeah, these are pretty good recipes. Tasty. Yum.
Yeah. So when I switched to veganism, it was mostly for health reasons, and I felt tremendously better. Right. But another factor was I just didn't work out as much either. Okay. And so I started working out a lot more in the last several months. As a consequence, I eat a lot more, right? And because of my specific case, like when my body is given more food, it's like, all right, let's fucking do it, you know? And I realized that that's actually not great, regardless if it's vegan or not, you know?
Yeah.
It would be exponential if it was red meat or any other kind of like heme protein of that nature, right? Because that shit engrosses your stuff even worse, like milk and dairy and all that kind of stuff. That shit's even worse for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it didn't help that I was just eating more, and I was like just eating a lot of food. Because it's not that it was more calories. Okay, this is an important factor. It's that it was a lot more food, like
The
actual
mass of it.
size of it. Yeah, I wouldn't even say the mass, but just like, but you know what I mean? I guess mass is a good way of thinking about it, right? Like it's just like a 300
Portions.
calories. Yeah, the portion's just much more bigger. Like 300 calories of kale is much larger than 300 calories of like, I don't know, like chicken, for instance, right?
Oh yeah.
In terms of the actual size of it, you know? And so I realized that this was like a compounding problem. And so I was like, okay, I do need to like eat a much more dense food, you know, to be able to keep my calories low, right? But like still be able to like eat, or sorry, keep my calories at a maintained ratio. Like I was eating about 25 to 3,000, you know, which is actually really good. It's very healthy, but like a 500 calories of beans is a lot of beans.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of beans, dude.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I just need to do that. Like, so I'll eat like bean, salmon burritos, for instance, but it's like, that's the only thing that has animal in it is just the salmon. I still don't do dairy. I don't do eggs. Stay away from that shit. And then like no red meat of any kind, you know? And it's way better because I still feel full because of the beans and the tortilla and all that, like the fiber that comes with all the vegetables. But I also know I'm getting a good amount of calories because of it. It has nothing to do with the protein. It has everything to do with I need to make sure I'm not eating too much food because my growth hormones start doing stupid stuff like make me start to swell up a little bit faster than normal. I think that if you're able-bodied, you don't have any kind of weird condition, you can almost certainly just sustain on eating primarily plant-based.
Yeah.
But I recommend primarily plant-based, even if you still eat meat, just because it's clearly healthier for you. Like just looking at every and all nation outside of like the vegan mindset, like it's just true. Like people who live longer eat way less animal products. Like just proportionately speaking, they just do.
Yeah. Like I feel miles better. Like I went out with some friends to have like, hot pot the other night after not having meat forever, and just like I felt so sluggish after.
Oh,
like,
dude, absolutely. Yeah. It's just so dense, calorically dense, and when you can fit more in your stomach, and you're just like, ugh. And that's why, like, when I was like eating just a lot of food, I was like making it dense in the other direction, where it's like it already is big, and I was just eating more. So I just found a good balance where like my meal looks like something that could actually fit in my stomach. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and it's dense and nutritious at the same time. So it's like it's not entirely dense. Like if you eat like bacon, for instance, like 6 strips of bacon doesn't look like a lot of food, but that shit will knock you out, right? If you eat those alongside like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 eggs, that shit will put you out, you know? And so for me, it's like if I was, for instance, if I was to eat pork again for whatever reason, I would moderate it. I wouldn't eat those 6 or 7. I would probably eat 2, you know, and I'll probably cut them into pieces and just sprinkle them on, like, I don't know, some sort of quinoa bean salad or something, right? That would be a strategy that I would employ for anyone of you guys who want to transition to a more healthier diet. We eat
I
way
did
too much food.
keto, and which is effectively the exact opposite of what you're saying. And I actually had way more energy. I felt way more on it, and I was probably eating. Now I tried to stay away from beef, but I ate a lot of pork, and I ate a lot of chicken, and I ate a lot of fish.
Yeah, lean meats, right?
And so, but I mean, I can't have beans, I can't have quinoa, I can't have rice in keto. So, I mean, I was having like kale and spinach and things like that, I guess, but I don't know.
I think keto is, in my opinion, super dangerous. And I'm telling you this because I don't want you to be surprised when the danger comes knocking on your door. I have a friend who's like all about it, right? And he said exactly the same thing that you're saying. And I'm like, yes, of course, you're not eating nearly as much food because keto is also a very limited diet, you know? And when you limit like your ingestion of like all these like terrible foods, like you mentioned like cookies and shit, right? Like that's bad. And in keto, if you're doing keto strictly, you're not allowed to even have cookies, which is good. You shouldn't be eating that many cookies anyways, right? But the problem is that like that amount of cholesterol and fat, no matter where it's coming from, will clog your arteries, dude. It's just the truth, you know? And it's that long con, dude. That long fucking con.
I don't know. I mean, like, I've questioned that myself because, like, when I was on it, when I was doing keto, I don't do it anymore, but when I was doing it, my cholesterol actually went way down. And it was because my doctor actually recommended, he didn't actually say keto, but he recommended like trying to do certain things. And it kind of fit in with keto. And then when I went and got my levels done and stuff again later, a lot of my stuff actually went way down from keto. So, but I don't know if that's a short-term benefit or a long-term benefit. I don't know, because keto's not really been a thing long enough to really know for sure. So
I can't be objective on this because I don't know what your blood work was like, but lower cholesterol from a high cholesterol, it still means you still have high cholesterol. Like I had, and I have like fucking textbook amazing cholesterol, right? Like it's not even in the average, like close to it. Like I think the bad cholesterol, you want it between like the hundreds and 50s. My shit was like 70, right? My pipes are clean, bro. You know, like my blood flow is clean right through there. And my doctor was like, the fuck? You know? And I was like, yeah, because I pretty much don't eat cholesterol of any kind, you know? And I remember too, because we did a lot of blood work when we first transitioned, because I'm not into that voodoo magic, dude. If my doctor is like, your blood work is bad, then I'm stopping, right? Or I'm changing something. I'm not going to be like, nah, but I saw this YouTube blog. Like, you know, this banana guy said I should be able to survive, you know? Like, I'm like, nah, dude. Like, this specific stuff, there's a lot of evidence around this that's just true. You know, we gotta like, you gotta listen to it, you know? This is what I'm saying. Like, even when I was like hardcore vegan and I would tell people, you don't have to completely quit like meats, just eat lean meats and like fish, for instance, because there's just the evidence is just there, right? Like I can't deny these cultures that have like 100-year lifespan, 90-year lifespans, right? What am I gonna say? Like, well, fucking, I don't know. Like, there's nothing I can say. Like, that's just true, you know? And this is another thing that's true. And the reason why I think this is sketch is because this has happened 3 times, I think, already in our culture, or 2 times rather. And this is what I think any of you guys are, if you're ever curious about this, be very cautious. Because I think even one of the big head keto guys was like, yeah, my cholesterol is like 400 to 500, but I feel fucking great. And it's like, okay, today, and they keep changing the name. It was originally like the Atkins diet, which was a heavy meat diet. And then they come to find out that was fucking killing people, dude. Then it changed to the paleo diet, which was, again, high meat diet, right? They just keep changing little pieces of it and changing the name, but ultimately it's the same shit, right? And it takes about 20, 30 years, and then you start seeing those numbers coming in. And then it starts to become clear, right? And so, like, the Mediterranean diet is, according to, like, a lot of health experts, is by far the healthiest diet in the world. And like I said, they eat fish and mostly fruits and vegetables. And the reason why the vegan diet may appear healthier ultimately is for that same reason, is that it's heavy on the fruits and vegetables, specifically if you eat a whole foods vegan diet, right? You can eat Oreos and Coca-Cola all day, and that's technically vegan, but no way would I promote that being as healthy. And I don't think anyone who's reasonable. And I'm also really skeptical of doctors when they give health advice, because they don't actually, nutritional advice, because they're actually, they don't know what they're talking about most of the time, unless they're a nutritional doctor, right? Where that's what they actually do. Like endocrinologists tend to know more about it, right? In fact, my endo, he was like, yeah, you should eat more plants. That'll help you reduce a lot of your hormone and stuff. And I was like, oh, I already do. I switched over. He's like, oh, great. He's heavy. He's all about that plant-based. You know what I mean? He's not vegan, but he's like, yeah, you got to eat more plants. And he mentioned stuff like, yeah, beans, quinoa, these types of things. And if you look at our physiology, like, the argument that we are carnivores is just ludicrous. That's just not true at all. Okay. But what is true is that we were omnivorous for sure. We had abilities of that. Absolutely. And I think a lot of vegans think that that's not true. I think that's just kind of not logical, even if you think about it on a primitive level, right? Like, it's just, we had to, and there's enough time for us to evolve to eat some of, but we were clearly evolved from creatures that ate mostly plants, right? And I think specifically we were probably more closer to like what apes love. Like, they love fruits, nuts, and seeds, these types of things. And I think this is why we just love sugar. Like, it's just built into our bones, we love it. In fact, when people bounce back, they usually bounce back to some sort of pastry or some sort of heavily carbohydrated food, because they were just neglecting their body for so long. Like, my friend who goes on keto, when he goes on cheat days, it's like just fucking cakes, candies, like all ice cream, like everything that you can think of that has lots of sugar and fat in it, And I just think that it's not sustainable, because he jumps off and on often, where I've been, I was vegan for about 5 years, no problems. It's only when I started working out again and eating way too much food. The alternate would be to stop working out so much. Just be okay with not being super buff. I'm not super buff, but you get my point. Like, I have that personality type. It's hard for me to stop. Unless I feel real sick, I'll probably have to reconsider. But I would say, as an artist, that it is incredibly important to have good nutrition, regardless of where you guys go. Okay. Because it helps with your mental health, obviously, your hormones, your focus, these types of things. And when you're eating right, like when I'm like on sprints where I'm like really eating healthy, for instance, when I eat a lot more beans, oatmeal, and all this stuff, like I tend to not eat any like snacks or anything like this. I just eat really good foods. I feel the best. And the only reason why I fall off of it has nothing to do with the urge to go back to eating bad food. It's convenience. That's always the biggest thing to put me back to it. Because I have to make most of my food when I do eat super healthy. And when I start to like crunch at work or I get extra busy, like I've been lately, it becomes a challenge to maintain that, you know? In fact, I talked to my wife the other day. I was like, we need to like build a better system because I'm like the only one that knows how to cook these things. I should teach you how to cook it too, so that I don't have to like rely on myself to get it done. Because after, having teach class for, I don't know, like 6 hours, it's hard to be like, all right, time to bake my overnight oats for tomorrow. Like, I just want to sleep, regardless of how good I was feeling earlier. But dude, like when you feel good, it's fucking hard to not want to maintain that. Like I'm already like, even me talking about it just reminded me like, I don't want to make overnight oats tonight, but I should, because I'll be feeling even better tomorrow because I'll have it there. I make a large batch and I'm just like, okay, fucking I'll just do it. It's just like 10 minutes. Like, I don't know why I'm like neglecting it. The reward from eating that healthy is so much greater. It's just, I'm being stupid by not doing it. I've just talked myself into it by talking to you guys about it. So I appreciate y'all. But yeah, I specifically for those of you who eat on a high fat, and I've told my friend this, by the way, who also had like severe, he had some severe issues elsewhere that I won't get into details. And I'm like, that's probably related to your lack of fiber. Okay. And so, yeah, I don't want to get too detailed or anything. And he was like, yeah, I need to eat more fiber. Yeah. So he did. He started eating way more fiber because you can still eat like some, like you mentioned earlier, like some kale and stuff like that, right? I was like, yeah, dude, well, you going all in on this, man. Like that's like full tilt. Like diversity.
Oh yeah,
bro.
I mean, I still always tried to have all my vegetable. I try to eat as many vegetables as I can. It's just fruit that you can't eat on keto, really, because it's high in sugar.
That just sounds crazy to me, man. Like it's fruits, bro. Like I think it's just about the idea that it has sugar. It's like a weird thing.
I mean, you can have a little bit, but yeah, no, it's, and see, like I've never had like super high cholesterol, but like it was slightly high, and then I don't know, it did go down when I went on keto, and I don't know if, I mean, it stayed down even though I'm not on keto anymore, so I don't know what it is, but I don't know if there was any connection or not. But
I just realized we probably should answer some art questions.
Well, yeah.
But food is art. It's just edible art, right?
I try to make it somewhat related. I said it is good for our artistic health to have healthy diets. But anyway, does anyone have some questions that are actually art related?
Yeah.
How dare you, Rick?
I'm so sorry, man.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I should have stopped.
Yeah.
No, you don't get a question.
All right,
no,
that's fair. That's fair, man.
Wasted our time with your previous
That's fair,
question.
dude.
You should have saved it.
That's fair, baby.
Anyone else? If nobody else, then we can come back to you.
I kind of have a question.
All right, go ahead.
So I know, like, you've always professed that just you got to keep working at it, just do one every day, or just being consistent with just posting, and then you'll eventually get there. Is there like a certain benchmark that we can like pick up on? Because I remember the chart that you were putting out, and it's like our feelings don't really matter whether or not we're like getting good or whatever, but like on an objective standpoint, should I like start comparing my stuff to other people to benchmark? That's
the only benchmark, really. And sorry to interrupt, but like,
no, you're good.
It's just because like there is like objective ways to be able to like benchmark, and I think you just said it, like compare it to yourself to a professional in the specific job field that you want to go in, right? That's a really good metric. But the reason why I talk about the feeling aspect of it is that it's a real distraction You know, like if you feel like you're not close, even though you might actually be close, you know, right? Like you might be an inch away, but it feels a mile away, and that could distract you, you know? Like I mentioned that female student, right? Earlier when we were talking about that and how she didn't feel she was capable of work yet. And she was just fooling herself for no reason, you know? I had to tell her, no, you're capable. And then she started applying it and she got a job, you know? So even if people are good, they still kind of are being stupid about it, you know? Case in point, we got a student like that in class who's like being real stupid. Brian, right? He's like, he's really good. And yet he's really, it's really hard for him to kind of like accept that. You know what I mean? Being real stupid, dude. Oh, dang. Poor Brian. Nah.
Badass
Called
Brian.
out.
Badass Brian. Get him.
He just like leaves the class. He's like, I knew it. I knew I was a sham. I was like, no.
Anthony was like, shade, but no shade, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking in terms of like the actual being dumb, you know. But I'm saying like it just seems funny to think that someone like him even, right? Like he wouldn't even admit, like he can't even jokingly say that he's a badass. When I asked him, he can only respond that way. Right? It's so funny. You know, and I've met some really great artists in the industry, people that you guys admire, I know for a fact, right? That are just they have this perspective still, even though they've like worked on some of the biggest and best movies in this stratosphere, you know? And that's why I'm like, you should just kind of ignore the feelings aspect of it and just trust that it's happening, you know? And rely on patience.
The background that someone's like just lurking you and like, hey, this guy's pretty good, you know, just should I just like illusion myself into thinking like I don't know. I guess it's all mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there is a way to measure that. No, you're right. Like there is a way to measure that metric. I'm just saying that like that there's a fundamental responsibility that you have to understand that benchmark exists and you're going to get to it, you know? That's what I'm getting at, right? Like I don't want you to fall into this trap that I see a lot of artists fall into, which is that they want to see like what it means to get there. And then as they progress, because they've created this kind of narrative, it could potentially actually backfire, right? And a more reliable narrative is the one I've been teaching you, know, which is just keep pushing forward. Just trust that it's happening, you know? Imagine that you're playing an MMORPG where they hide the leveling stats from you.
Oh, okay.
You know?
So like
imagine that they
intrinsic leveling up.
It's just all hidden from you, like that the armor that you're equipping and all, it's all just hidden, but it's happening. You know, that's why the games aren't designed that way, because it would be really infuriating.
Let me mirror that metaphor and say fighting games. There's no leveling up system or whatever. It's just
fighting
like,
games is a great example.
You know you're getting better just by like if you're consistently winning versus like something telling you, oh hey, you've upgraded or whatever. So
fighting games is a great example because it is a true emulation of real life in terms of like, if you want to be good at fighting games, you got to play more fighting games. You got to keep fighting and keep winning and losing, probably more losing at the beginning, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And this is also the main reason why people can't get into fighting games, right? This is why fighting games aren't like one of the biggest esports versus games like League of Legends, you know? Like
every time I bring it up with friends, they're like, fighting games, that's funny. And then
no, like fighting games are legit like test of skill. Absolutely. Like if you understand the level of skill it takes to play some of these games, the respect should definitely live there rather than in games like League of Legends. It's not to say that League of Legends doesn't require lots of skill. Absolutely, it's a hard game to get good at as well, right?
I just know it just takes the same amount of effort to get into like League as it would to fighting games, or as it would to like.
Oh no, I think it's harder to get better at fighting games than it is to get better at League of Legends. And I
It's
don't
harder.
mean, yeah, I'm fighting games is harder to get better at. And I don't mean that in a way that like League of Legends isn't a hard game. What I'm saying is that League of Legends has measurable stuff in it
Oh,
that it's easy to understand, right? Oh, I can see that I'm leveling up my character. Oh, I can see that I killed that and I got 10 gold. I see what the last hit means, and you know what I mean?
There's also teams.
Yeah, there's also a team, so you can rely on your teammates. Absolutely. There's a lot of aspects to it that can help. And then when you start to get at the pro level, then there's like these, when everyone's playing at the best, then it starts to get really great, you know?
Yeah.
But a fighting game, like to know how to do like canceled dashes and stuff like this, like the Korean dash, for instance, in Tekken.
Oh man,
What?
Yeah, like
it's a thing.
that's
Wave
a thing.
dashing.
Yeah, wave dashing. Like it's not a thing that's in the game's like it doesn't
design.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you to do this.
Smash has that, right?
Yeah,
I
like
think,
every
yeah.
fighting game has a thing. There's some fighting games where they've created rules too, like meta rules to kind of help balance the game that doesn't get support from its creators. Like Marvel versus Capcom does a point system, kind of like what you would see in Warhammer, right? Like so certain characters are worth more points, you know? So if you build your team in Marvel versus Capcom, you have to consider this in certain tournaments. So you don't build like a certain meta every single time, because there's just clearly is a like 2 or 3 combinations of teams that are just the best, right? And so the way to make the game more interesting, what they've done was they did this point system.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. It's really clever, right? But like what I'm trying to get at is like that's incredibly complicated. And when you watch like the one of the most greatest fighting moments, that even if you know nothing about the fighting game, the one where like the fucking
Daigo parry.
Yeah, the parries
Let's
of like
go,
Chun-Li.
Jessica.
Yeah. Like it doesn't matter if you know what's going on, like how they do that. Like the idea of what's happening is visually compelling. Like you understand, like, oh, this person's blocking every hit. Or parrying every hit. This is incredible. Right? And like from like literally like 1 pixel of health, it's like a great comeback. You know what I mean? And fighting games has lots of moments like that. But they're way more nuanced. And because they're more nuanced, most people can't see them and understand them, right? Until you get those spectacular moments that it's not nuanced at all. It's very clear that it's fucking awesome, you know? League of Legends has that as well, but like I said, more and more people can see those nuances because they understand the complexity because they've gone through it, right? Where in fighting games, a lot of people don't see it because they can't even play online because they get destroyed, right? Because it's just so meta, you know. But if they only knew, you know what I mean? Then
I hate when I think I'm pretty good and then I get owned by a button masher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like it feels bad, and it's where like professionals can really get through that easily because they can anticipate and exploit the button mashing, right? Where
I'm that button masher.
It was funny. My one of my close friends thought he was like really good at Tekken, and he wanted to play against one of my other good friends. I mentioned him earlier, actually, Kalen, who I know for a fact is like a fighting game.
Kalen's really good at that stuff.
Fighting game aficionado. Like
Kalen is good at Tekken.
He loves fighting games. He knows his games are Street Fighter, but like he knows that world. All right, like fighting games. And yeah, he destroyed my friend, my other friend. Like my other friend had no chance. And I was watching it. I was like, I don't think you're good at all. Actually, I think I could even beat you. Like, where did you get this idea that you were good? And I played him, and I was like, I'm gonna play the most cheese character, and I'm gonna just show you that you don't know what to do. I played Eddie Gordo, And I know his like I know his like technique of just like fucking rolling forever and just keep on slamming hits. Like I could do it real well. And he had no answer for that. I just was destroying him. And I was just like, oh dude, you have no idea what you're doing here. Right. And it was just so funny that he came into that conversation with such confidence. And me and Kaylin just like mopped the floor with him. But it's just so funny that that's just like a thing, you know? And going back to kind of your original assertion, though, question is the point I'm making here is like, just, imagine life is like a fighting game more so than like an RPG, right? Like the example that I was using earlier, I think is still valid. But if you know what I mean, if you know what or if you know what the struggle is with a fighting game is, then that's a better example, right? Because it is true. The game does not tell you that you're getting better. You just get better.
Or Sekiro. Sekiro might be a good example too.
Yeah, a lot of like the
Dark
Souls-like
Souls.
games are very much like this too. This is why they're like some of my favorite games.
I don't like games that hard.
Ninja Gaiden.
I play games to relax, and those games do not make me relax.
No, totally.
That's
You
a
can't
valid
play
feeling.
those to relax. You have to play it as like,
No,
oh, I
that-
hate. I'm a masochist. I need to get better at it.
Remember that game I
It's
made?
life.
Remember that game I made, Rick, the 10-second game where you have to get
Oh
across?
God! Oh
Yeah.
yes, I remember that.
That's
That
the kind of games I like. I like to make games that are just like this are hard. You just got to get better. There's nothing.
What was it?
There's
What
nothing
was
to
the
it.
goal of that one again?
You
to
had
get
10 seconds to get across the level. That's it. And
Yeah, and it was brutally hard. I remember that.
level
That's wild.
level 1 was pretty easy, and then level 2 is just like, all right, get good, scrub. And I still have it. I guess you guys can try it out here. I'll show it to you guys. Hold on. It's by far actually my best game that I've ever made.
Oh my
That-
god,
that's
that
an
picture
oldie
is
good
so
one.
cute.
Yeah, that's my baby. Yeah, here. Let me make sure my audio doesn't blast my ears out. All right, so this is pretty simple. It's a web-based game. You are this little sprite dude, and you have 10 seconds. That's it to get across. So once you press space, and you can see like it's like light speed, but get good, scrub.
Oh my god. This has nothing on Google Dinosaur jumpy game.
Yeah,
What
so-
was the one you made? Was it Don't Wake Baby or whatever? That
Yeah,
like,
that's
I
also
remember.
a get good game.
Yeah, John
Gosh.
speed ran through it like in like 2 seconds, and it took me forever to like try and figure out how to play the game.
Oh, I can jump. What have you done, Anthony?
Yeah, I Can Jump is another game, and this is also a really hard game. So you your face is like covering. Let me move that. So you can it's better with the control. It's definitely much harder using a keyboard and
Jeez.
mouse
Oh,
or keyboard. But yeah, it's just a platformer, and it's a little floaty, and that makes it even harder, dude. And
ugh.
you can double jump once you make or you could jump again. You could do another double jump once you land on a platform, and it's just about how many points you can collect. Ooh, fuck my life!
Yeah, I think you. Ooh,
Fuck
you
my life.
Oh,
It's so much easier. It's so much easier with the controller. And there's like some slow motion. Oh yeah!
Oh.
Oh, the future is here. Oh, let's get that last one. Oh, damn! Oh no!
Oh.
You gotta be pixel perfect, bros. You
Is
gotta
there
be
a game called Fuck My Life yet? 'Cause
Oh,
that
no.
might be a title for a new game.
All right. Anyway, there's another game that I made.
I thought it was getting over it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
that's the kind of game I'm about, man. And this one's another one
Fire
called Fire Everything. So you
What
just
was the
basically
little
can shoot
robot
left and
one?
right and up, and yeah, you just gotta like fucking fire everything. And your bullets are attached to your life, or no,
Oh.
you just have bullets. Never mind. You can run out of bullets. I'm like, wait, your bullets are attached to your life? No, that's not
That
true.
would have been hard.
That's even harder. Yeah, you're like really conservative. No, you can fire as much as you want. You just run out of bullets, and so you just gotta like collect upgrades to get more of a magazine. It's coming to me like slow as fuck. Oh fuck! Like it just gets harder
Oh my
and harder.
God.
Oh, I'm sucking at my own game. Give that. Why isn't that? All right, now you can like fire. And you have infinite fire until that goes away. Yeah. Give me that upgrade, dude. Come on. All right, there we go. Yeah, it gets harder, man. There's like waves of balls that come to the left too that are invincible. You can't blow them up.
Oh my god.
You ever played Serious Sam?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's what that
here's
makes
the orbs.
It's just like,
All right.
Give me that. Give me that. All right, there we go.
Super hot VR. This kind of reminds me of
dude.
Hot VR.
Super hot. I love that game, man.
Dude, the VR one is insane because you have to like freaking run or whatever to pick up the gun.
Make sure you don't punch your cat in the face.
I punched my desk.
Oh
hard.
no.
So I've made some fun games. This one's actually way less challenging here. The game that I'm making too right now is another try-hard game, by the way. But I've also no. Okay.
Oh.
So this one you can left click, and wherever you leave that clicker, you can teleport to. But you can only teleport as many times as you have points. So this one's limited. So you have to collect points to keep being able to teleport. And the yellow ones are only 1 point. Oh, son of a bitch. And those green ones are son of a bitch. Are 5 points.
It's like Fortnite.
Red Son of Death.
You gotta escape the zone.
Oh yeah. Oh no, what am I? And wherever you leave it, it's gonna take you back to it. So you have to remember. Oh, that was I don't remember this one. What is this? Ooh, 32? Hell yeah, dude. But there is an end of the world. I need to
the world.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, so he's
that's just too much stress for me.
Yeah, so you can see where my heart lies.
Ooh.
I'm all about the challenges, both in life and in my games. I like to feel accomplished for my skill, you know? I'm not a big fan of like games like Mario Kart, where there's like there's the edge of the world. Fuck you, orb of death. Fuck you. Oh, damn.
Smash Bros.
Oh yeah, and it's completely procedural levels too, so it changes every time.
Nice.
So you'll see it's a little different. Yeah, see now there's something to the left instead of to the right. I built most of these games within a week or two. As you could probably tell, I just look at it. And then I was like, look at this game. This game's funny too.
Where can one play all of these?
Look at this. You just go through doors. But there's an exploit on this one. So someone found out and I was like, you cheating bastard. But that's part of game design. You gotta like learn.
Damn. Yeah, that looks that looks challenging. Oh.
This level is actually not as challenging as as the second level, ironically.
Really?
Crazy Frogger. Oh my.
This one's also not that challenging. It looks challenging, but once you figure it out, you're like, oh no. This one's challenging now.
That's some crazy Twitch reaction.
Well, yeah, it's like
I don't have the reflexes
Oh my
for
God.
this
Oh, there you
kind of
go.
stuff anymore.
it's like
Like I don't mind
Sekiro.
challenging, I guess, if I can take my time and think about it. But
Damn, I'm so good at my own games.
That's really why you
I think
make
that's
games,
that's
right?
something natural to
Oh,
approach
son
games,
of a bitch.
taking your time with them.
Yeah, Great Ape and Sekiro like kicked my ass the first time around, and then
I've
like
seen-
the second time
Playing
was so
video games. What am I
easy.
doing?
It's perfect.
Yeah. But so like making those kinds of games are great because it taught me a lot about programming and game design. But one thing I learned about game design specifically is that I make games that are really hard, and I need proper play testers, not just me, because I'm just only making games for myself. Which, by the way, there is an audience for that, absolutely, right?
oh yeah,
But it's like I also like the games. Like I really love games that introduce challenge very, very well. A great example of this is Slay the Spire. To me, I think that is one of the greatest challenging games ever, and a lot of other roguelike type games, that are like really challenging incrementally, you know, or rather it's challenging from the start. Like you could see it, but you can also see how to get out of it. You know, it doesn't seem as like just biting your nails, like, oh, I fucking clicked it, you know, that kind of anger.
Oh,
It's more of
arbitrary difficulty.
yeah, it's more like it's more like, because my games are like that. They're like, I fucking pressed it, or I swear to God, I touched it.
I checked that.
Yeah. Which in reality, no, you did it. You just suck. But like, but that perception, I don't like. I do want the game to feel like it's fair, you know. Even though it technically is, right? Maybe in some of my games it might not be, but I'm almost certain most of them are, right? But it does feel unfair. I can see that. You know what I mean? Like Over It is 100% fair, right?
Because that's all you, right?
Yeah, but it just feels unfair when you fall from you're like 70% up the mountain, and then you just fall all the way to the beginning, and knowing how long it took you to get to where you were before, it feels just like so sucky. And again, there is an audience for that, but I don't want to pander to that audience specifically.
So I think because, and actually this brings up something that I was talking about with someone that's more art related too, but it is also game related, is that because I'm a storyteller first, I need that story. I need that. And I don't really care if it's hard or easy or whatever, but if it has a really, really good story in it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think though, and from an art perspective, I was talking to someone the other day because of that same thing. Like he was saying that because he's been doing digital painting for a long time, and he was saying that he loves that just kind of like exploration phase and just kind of like figuring things out, where I've already kind of got these grand images in my head because I'm a storyteller first. And sometimes it's a struggle for me to figure out how do I get those grand images into a page or something like that, because I already have all this stuff in my head that I want to be able to try to represent somehow.
Sure. Yeah, man. And I will say my advice always on that is just assume that's not true, though, that you don't have those images in your head, because it's one of those what you call it, the Harry Potter, like what do you imagine Harry Potter look like in the books versus what happened in the movie problem that could happen, you know what I mean? It's best to just there is this thing I just watched today which I really like, the philosophy, which is follow the fun, where these game developers originally had like an original idea of what the game was supposed to be, but as they started making the game, they pivoted, you know, because they realized this that part of the game, the specific aspect of the game mechanic that they designed, is just so much more fun, and so they just really designed around that. And I am preparing myself for what I think that will, like, what that means for my game, you know. For instance, 10 seconds is exactly what I wanted it to be. I was like, you have 10 seconds, get across. And because I knew that that's fun, like I just know that that is fun because I've played games that are time trial based, and that's just a proven concept, you know? I wasn't too worried about it, but my goal with that project was not to actually make a fun game. It was more about like learning programming specifically. That was all done in JavaScript. And I was like, I'm going to make the most simplest game, right? Don't Wake Baby, same thing, right? Just learning a tool. It doesn't matter if the game is fun or not. But when I made Telemega, the one where you teleported and stuff, that was a good example of where I had a different vision of what I thought that game could be, right? But because it was unclear, I kept on making mistakes during the first part of the game, right? I was making it more of like a platformer, right? But I was like, but it's like, it feels weird to like jump when I could teleport anywhere, you know? And I was like, all right, what if I just get rid of jump and put all the stakes into the teleporting, you know? And I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, you know what else? Like what if like everything was just attached to teleporting? Like including when you collect points, you lose your points when you teleport, right? And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so then I created the stakes, and it's like, but what's in like, okay, what's dangerous if you could teleport wherever and however? Like, what is truly like a dangerous thing? Maybe it's like fucking giant orb, maybe that just keeps growing and expanding and following you. At the beginning, it's fine because you can teleport. You're like, silly orb. But when you realize it's literally the size of the sun and it's still chasing you, that seems like that could be really exciting when it starts to get to that point. And it is exciting. Now, I can make it better. I could have improved it and made it more fun if I had proper playtesters and etc. Right, and if I wanted to make that a whole-fledged game. But again, I'm not in the camp of making mobile games. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. I want to make a game. You know, and this is not me knocking mobile games, by the way, either. I don't want to imply that. Actually, some of my favorite games of recent memory, the games that I continuously play, even to this day, are mobile games. You know, like Clash Royale is like the only game I played like all of 2017 to 2019. I didn't play like any other game other than like some maybe the big hits, but even
Super
those I barely
Smash.
played.
Didn't you
Yeah.
play Smash?
Oh yeah, I played the Smash too. That's true. Yeah, but I'm. I guess the point I'm making ultimately was that the game that I played on my leisure time, because Smash was mostly with friends usually,
Yeah.
was a mobile game. So I clearly like mobile games. I love them. In fact, again, some of my favorite games are mobile. There's a game called Florence. It's a beautiful
Ooh.
game. I love this game. It's a very, very, very beautiful concept. It's not really, it's less of a game. It's more of like a cool interactive concept, you know? Like you basically are playing like a young woman who like falls in love, and it's really awesome. I don't want to spoil it, like some of the mechanics of the game, like clever mechanics that are tied to gameplay in the story. It's really clever and very beautiful, and it's just like, oh, so cool, you know. It reminds me of games like Journey, for instance, where just is like less game, it's more of an experience, you know. And so for me, I'm like, my current project, I'm like, okay, how do I make a game kind of like along those lines? The closest example of a game that I can think of would be games like Inside. That game is like a beautiful piece of art, as well as a really fun game, you know? But it also has like a really interesting concept around what the morality of that game is. And then other games that do this are like Portal. Like Portal 2 is by far my favorite game of all time, you know? And when I think back to like my favorite moments in games, it's always stuff like that. Just like this kind of bigger picture shit, you know? Not just that it's, you have 10 seconds to get across. You know what I mean? There is a premise though, that you could pivot, like a game that seems superficial. There's a game called Ridiculous Fishing. Have you guys heard of this? It's a mobile game, and it's also a high octane type of game, right? It's like fucking, you're just fishing, and it's like balls to the wall fishing. It's super cool. It's a lot of fun, but it actually like it poses itself as just like a cash grab mobile game. But if you beat the game, it's fucking emotional. It's like a story. They trick you, dude. They catfish you. And I'm like, oh, this is so rad. That's the kind of games I want to make, you know? Where it's a little bit more like there's like a surface level to it, but then when you complete it, there's a lesson to be had, right? And to not get to too much of what I think my game is going to be, but like a theme that I'm flirting with is, you know, I always teach you guys about like that consistency and the idea of staying true to the path. I was like, I wonder if I can make a game that can do that, right? and find a way to reward that other games don't really do often or aren't really good at doing, you know? Because as an educator and as someone who's been doing this for a long time, like I wonder if I can bleed a little bit of that into my game design, you know what I mean? And take people who would normally give up on a game that's really hard and actually beat it and feel very accomplished. And it's part of the game's narrative. Like, hey man, if you could beat this game, you could beat life, man. Pat on the back from the creator. Right?
Say the word, Bart.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
narrative gameplay.
Yeah. Like I even want to like have parts of the game where if the players like I don't know if this would be cool or be fucking weird if the player gets like a message from the developer, literally, like it would be me, right? And I can be like, hey, I know you're feeling bad.
Oh, like some Yoko Taro levels kind of
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
where
something like
you're
where I'm like it's really just the voice of me.
Oh wow.
And I'm just like, hey dude, you got this, man. And I wonder what that would be like to have like imagine if you're playing God of War and Cliff or not Cliff, Corey Borlaug was just like, you
Raph
got this, dude.
Grissetti.
Yeah.
dude.
Or Raph Grissetti is like, dude, trust us, man. When you get past this mountain, you're gonna see some epic art. And you're like, what? That was the developer telling me that? Like, because in most game development, I think they don't do that because it's like removes immersiveness, you know. But I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of tie the reality that this is made by somebody and they want you to beat the game. And there's something special for you if you do, you know?
Yeah.
Versus my like 10-second game is like, fucking get good, scrub. You suck? Ugh. Get out of here.
Speaking of good game design, what did you think of Doom Eternal? Because first off, did you even play it?
Yeah, I have it, but I didn't play it all the way through.
Oh,
I love games like that, but they're like are very arcadey. I love them though. I love games that are just like they know what they are, and it's just an agreement. It's a handshake. And we're like, all right, we're doing this. All right, this is how you want me to play a video game. I'm in. You know. But I think I'm less into these types of games. Even though I got it and I played it, I think I'm less into these types of games just because I've played these types of games a lot throughout my life. And I'm more interested in like the games I just mentioned earlier now.
Gotcha.
All right. And there is a small audience for that. That's why I need to keep my development costs low, which is the whole spending a year is a bad strategy, in my opinion. Because I don't think the return will justify it. I want it to be meaningful, but also I want to have good lessons learned from it. And then I also want to make sure that there's some justifiable return so I can kind of create a sustainable model of making games like this. The Leica model is what I call it. Like Leica makes like these claymation movies, right? Like Kubo and like Coraline. Yeah. But they always make it within their budget and they always make that money back in some so they can make the next one. You know what I mean? They don't try to go for those like Marvel numbers, you know what I mean? They just try to make a movie that people like enough to go watch. That's kind of what I want to live. And if I get a hit, awesome. It's not going to slow me down. I'm going to still do what I was going to do. Right? Miyazaki, I think, is a good example. Like he had a lot of good films that were just his movies, and they did really well in Japan. And then I think some of them started hitting the States. I think Spirited Away was one of those big ones that just like really took off. But he was making movies way before that movie, you know?
What was it?
Cagliostro.
Mononoke was the first one.
Yeah, he made a lot
Disney
of great films. Yeah, way before some of the big ones that most people can name. But Spirited Away is probably one of the more popular ones. Like, if you mention any of the other ones, like even like Howling Castle and all these other stuff, like that are really good, you know, most people just don't know. They just don't. It's just the reality of it. Western audiences wouldn't know. If you went elsewhere, I think most people go, "Yeah, hell yeah, bitch." Those are tight. You know, versus like if you go anywhere in the world and say like Captain America or
King
Iron
Kong.
Man, yeah, they're gonna know. I'm all about that Miyazaki level stuff, that Tim Burton before he became mainstream. You know,
Yeah.
I'm all about that life.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Pee Wee Herman. That is some good stuff right there. Yeah.
Paul Rubens.
All good old Paul Rubens, except for the new Netflix movie, the Pee Wee Herman one. That one is that one's not good.
I don't remember if I saw it, so that I guess that says something.
Just don't watch it if you haven't. It's not. It's very sad to watch Paul Rubens probably do it because he needed money, and it not being funny.
Mm-mm.
All right, guys. Any last questions? It's starting to get late, and I need to get to beds.
One question I had.
Notes. God damn it!
Is it? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just remembered I need to make overnight oats.
You got this.
A little bit of banana in there.
I'm gonna be honest, not a little bit, a lot of it.
Oh shit!
All of them, a whole bunch, dude. Anyway, so sorry, you were gonna say something.
I have one question.
Oh yeah, Milad. Let's get what do you guys? I haven't heard from you in years.
So, my question is, when you try to pick works for your portfolio, like I mean, of course, for you it's a different case. You're already well known, but for example, if I want to pick different pieces for my portfolio, how do you categorize them if it's not only based on the company? Like if it's the company have all the other, like most of the time company have a specific thing, so I try to go with what they have. But a lot of time they very open, like most of the game they make, like Naughty Dog, for example, like a lot of the games they make is fairly open to what I can design. So for them, I don't know like how to specify my portfolio for them, if that makes any sense.
It does. Well, for one, Naughty Dog doesn't really have.
Like, maybe Naughty Dog was
like they, yeah, like, but I'm just going to use them as an example, regardless. Like they don't have like a lot to work with in terms of concept art, too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't know why I say Naughty Dog.
Yeah, but let's say you wanted to work for Naughty Dog. I'm going to use them anyway. You got to think about like what they would want to do in concept art, whatever that is, and it might just be more realistic looking characters, environments. You know, maybe give or take Last of Us, which has more fantasy elements to it. You know,
Greatest game ever.
They used to make some cool stuff like that were a little bit more crazy, like the Jack series, Crash Bandicoot originally, right? But they've abandoned that for this new world order, and which I think is sad. Actually, I think they need to go back to their roots because it might be even healthier for their work culture. But you know, you just build whatever you think they would need, and there is examples of concept art that they have that you can follow. But here's the thing: it's less about working for a company, and you should build a portfolio specifically for that company. Picking a company to build a portfolio for is just a way to set a goal for your artwork in general. So like if you like looking at the stuff that you've done for my class, like you can pick a different studio, right? Like you could pick like a studio, like look at what you do and you say, okay, you know, a studio kind of like Bethesda might want my work, right? And I'm a fan of Bethesda games, let's say, right? Yeah. So then you just look at what they do and just try to provide that content. It's like it's not too far away from what they already make. You know, and whether you get a job at Bethesda is irrelevant. The whole point is that you're making a portfolio that looks like it could work somewhere, right? And what ends up happening is that you might get hired from a company that is Bethesda adjacent, like, you know, Bethesda parallel, right? Like they're similar, but you're working and you're making the kind of stuff that you like, right? What you don't want to do is, if we go back to this like pick a studio to work for mentality, and and take it to this most extreme example of like, well, okay, I need to make a portfolio for studios that I can work for. I'm going to make a portfolio for Blizzard. I'm going to make a portfolio for Naughty Dog, right? I'm going to make a portfolio for Pixar. That's where it becomes, you're missing the larger point, you know? I don't make artwork for Pixar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would love to work for Pixar. You know, I actually would. Like, I think that would be a fun ass job, right?
Yeah.
But where would I even get the balls to apply to them? You know, I heard you guys are working on Monsters Inc. 3. Like, I got some monsters. And they're just like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I heard you guys are making Wall-E too, dude. I got a robot. Look at my robot. I just did one right here. Like, what? Dude, that is way too detailed. You know, we're trying to make family films, not like the next freaking Halo movie, right? But I mentioned Halo, like 343 might hire me, you know? Maybe they're not my favorite studio to want to work for. Maybe like I'm not hyped to work on Halo, but I wouldn't turn it down, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I actually would probably like I wouldn't apply to work for Halo, but I wouldn't mind working for Halo because I can see my work there, both in my creature and my mech designs. I can see that there is enough there that I could probably get a job there and work and do well, you know? And I would enjoy it because I like drawing this type of stuff. So if I was building a portfolio, and back when I first started, then I would build it towards that. I would be like, I'm gonna keep making mechs that look like they can work for 343. And then guess what? I get a call from the original Halo makers, Bungie. They're like, hey, can you work on Destiny 3? We need this type of sci-fi aesthetic. You see how it's similar enough. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. Right. So when I first started, what I picked, because I loved Blizzard, I was a big fan of Blizzard games, right? But I like to paint more, like I'm a tryhard. I make tryhard games, you saw. I like to paint really complex stuff at a high fidelity, you know? And I knew that that's just not a Blizzard game. There's no game that's like that other than maybe Diablo. But at the time, I think they were going with Diablo 3 aesthetic, which was way less gritty, you know?
Yeah.
So it really didn't make sense to build a portfolio for their games, but it made a lot of sense to make a portfolio for their movie or their cinematics.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I want to work for the Blizzard cinematics team specifically. I think I can go there. I love Blizzard games, but I don't know if I can work on their games. I'll work on working for them indirectly, like through their cinematics, and I would be happy there. And I tried and never got that job. And then I decided to just, you know what? It's okay. I'm getting jobs elsewhere. I'm doing all this other stuff. And I'm making a living. I'm doing well. I'm building a reputation. And it's working out. And as soon as I had that mentality, guess what? Blizzard calls me. And they wanted me to work for the Blizzard Cinematics team. You know? And I was like, this is the dream, dude. And I got that job. And I worked it. And it was by far one of my favorite jobs I've ever had in the game industry. And the only thing that took me away from it was when I started Robotpencil, the school, right? Yeah. That's the only thing that took me away from it. But I was offered another opportunity to be like an art director on one of their projects. I didn't know enough about it, but because my stuff wasn't quote unquote stylized enough, they didn't think that I could probably follow through. Even though the people that were working there were like, you guys need to hire AJ. Like, he can do it, you know?
Yeah.
But because I didn't have anything in my portfolio, word of mouth was just not enough. You know what I mean? But I can absolutely do a stylized project. No problems, right? But the reason why I don't get jobs in that industry is specifically very reasonable. I don't have anything that shows it. All the stuff that I have is like all under an NDA. It's all private. And I showed that stuff to them and they were like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. But I guess they just wanted more evidence of it. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, man. I get it. Yeah. And I ultimately turned it down because another company offered me an art director role without any questions because they're like, no, we know you can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how you should think about building the portfolio pieces. It's less about like I should make for specific studios. You should pick a specific studio you think you would already fit for, and then just compound that idea to stay focused on that. Even if you never worked there, right? Because like I said, you will get opportunities elsewhere. Like if you have the going back to cinematic artist for Blizzard, right? If you have the quality of like an artist like Wang Wei at that level of like polish and detail and concept design, you're going to get a job somewhere. You know what I mean? If Blizzard doesn't hire you, some other company will. And that's what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. And then ultimately Blizzard did hire me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I was stuck in there for a little while before actually we talked. I think last time I was like just doing everything I had like everything in my portfolio for every company possible out there.
Yeah, you're casting a wide net, but if you take my advice, you'll understand there's another reason why that's really a bad strategy is because you may actually get a job doing one of those styles and you might realize you don't really like it. You just did it because you were trying to get a job. And what ends up happening is that you get that job, you start doing really good, and you start having more portfolio pieces that are reflective of that very specific skill. And then when you decide to move or want to like go to a different job, guess what? You only have portfolio pieces of that one thing. So you get more jobs doing that same thing and you start to realize, wait, like I keep getting better at a thing that I don't want to do. This is like the story of like of one of my students who was a graphic designer. He did graphic design and UI design because they said that there's more job opportunities there, which is very true because a lot of people don't do UI design and graphic design for games, right? So he got that job, but then he was like making icons and buttons for like the UI, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, cool, I got a job, but I would technically wanted to be a character concept artist. I just did this because somebody told me I should do this." And he took my class, and I told him what I told you. I think this is what happened. I was talking to somebody else about what I said to you, and then he brought up, he's like, "This is fucking facts," and he explained what he was doing, and that's how I learned about it. He's like, I'm doing literally what he's saying can happen, you know.
Oh yeah,
I hate my job.
I'm doing that actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm a motion designer now. I do animation because I start 2-3 animation and now I get animation with AJ Plus, and then now I'm like every job I get is just animation now. I'm an animator,
which is
animator now.
Yeah, which is totally true, man. Like it's okay, like to do that as a starter. By the way, I'm not even making the argument that that's a bad strategy. Ultimately, I'm just saying, bad strategy at the beginning, but ultimately it is a bad strategy, right? So if you've already experienced that, you don't want to make the same mistake again, right? Like where you just like pander to like a wide net and then you get that job and you realize you're stuck in the same position you were before, you know? But just now different title. And also like that focus allows you just to get really good at one thing. And when you're more specialized, you get paid more too, because you are amongst the very few who can do that thing very well. Versus like a larger group of people who also can kind of do a lot of different things. Now, I will say that the industry is shifting. There is more and more people that are becoming jack of all trades, and that is starting to have more value. But I also believe that the ones that really stand out are the ones that still have a master craft. Okay. Because that mastery comes with wisdom that is has a strong foundation, you know? Like if I know how hard it was to make like a character concept art like this, for instance, how to get to this point, then I'm not as naive as an individual who's like kind of moderately skilled at a lot of different things, right? I can have enough wisdom to be able to kind of see past that. And I know this is to be true because a lot of people that I work with that have this specialty, they have this mindset too. They're a lot more like when I mentioned Vitaly knew the challenge it would be to make a new game. Like he wasn't incredibly naive, you know. When Jama decided to build his own like kit bash like library, he knew the challenge of that what that was going to be. He just executed on it, right? When I decided to start school and do tutorials, I knew the challenge of that. You know what I mean? Versus somebody who's never really pushed themselves in any one direction and are always kind of like living. There's still a bit of insecurity of their ability. And when somebody kind of overshines them, it can throw these individuals for a loop. And I can speak from experience, both from my teaching, I see this a lot, and professionally. When I interface with people that I know are multidisciplined and are not really great at any single thing, it is crazy how much they push back on everything you try to do. Like, hey, we can do this. Or like, oh, that's impossible. We can't do that. It's like, well, I don't think you know how to do that. And that's why you say we can't do that. But we can totally do that. And this is how. You got to think this way. And I've done that when I was working with Riot. I did that twice. And it was a real funny thing to experience because this is like some of the biggest studios in the world. And there's still a little bit of that happening. And it's just funny, you know, that I was just like, no, guys, like think this way. And they're like, oh, you're right. That's way better, you know? But it's like, I think that wisdom came from my ability that I've earned over the many years of just constantly knowing that there's a faster, more efficient way to do a lot of this different things because I've done it for myself. I remember when I was in school, even this was true, where I had friends who were modelers that they weren't that great. Like I knew that they weren't like, but they always talked as if they were. They act like they knew everything about modeling. And I remember there was this tool that I found and I was like, dude, this tool, like you could UV like on the actual model, like you can like mark the seams and all that stuff because back then I don't think you could do that. And they're like, that's fucking impossible, dude. I was like, no, I like literally saw a video on YouTube. It was crazy. And they're like, nah, dude, that's like fantasy. And then like literally like 2 months later, that same guy was like, dude, AJ, check this out. And I was like, that was the fucking tool I was talking about. You son of a bitch. And it's just funny. I see that a lot, you know? And so having that mastery, it just builds a certain type of confidence that allows you to recognize things a little bit better and also build a stronger foothold, you know, to have a stronger conversation in a lot of these situations. Like I remember my art director, Jonathan Berube, like when he would talk about stuff to me, like he's like, oh, AJ, you're doing it all wrong. This is how you should do it. I was just like, all right, you're fucking right, dude. I believe you 100%, because he was just so good at what he did, right? That it was just really hard for me to disagree. Like I was like, if this guy's telling me I need to do this, like I'm just gonna do it. And like 99% of the time, he was right. Like the reason why I'm really good with scale, for instance, like I'm making this guy look real tough and real big. He feels big. I learned that from Jonathan. He was like, he used to critique my stuff. He's like, all your stuff look like toys, dude. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. It does look like toys. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm still teaching. My wife's coming and telling me. Yeah, you're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right. That's my cue to get out of here. But I'll finish this thought. You know, when I saw his work and whatever he was submitting during our dailies, it was just so good, you know? And when he would tell me things, I just believed him. And a lot of times he was just right. And then when I would interface with people that just didn't have that caliber of work, right? and they would say something like, I don't know, like maybe they'll say something like, "No, toys are cool, man. Like it's fine," you know. And it just felt like they didn't want to challenge the idea. Like they were just like, "It's fine like this. We don't need to push it further." It was just harder for me to listen to that. You know what I mean? In fact, I think most people, they have a harder time listening to that kind of stuff. You know. And so it just it helps bring the presence to these conversations. And if you're very humble and you're also very respectful for people that might be at a lower skill, then you gain even more respect because you're not like steamrolling over everybody's ideas either, right? Like if you're that kind of person, I like to consider this like being a general in an army that also is in the front line, you know, where you have seen battles, you've fought, you've won wars, you know, you have battle scars, you look fucking tight. But you're still in it, dude. You're still in the midst of it. And it's like the kind of stuff you see in movies, you know what I'm talking about? Versus being like that warlord on the top of the hill telling people what to do. And he's never seen a fight in his life. This is one of my greatest critiques of our past and even presidents. You know, I just feel like these fuckers don't know what the hell they're doing, you know? And so mastery helps you attain this, okay? So you got to stay focused, my dude. But it's okay to dive into other things too. I'm not completely opposed to that because I do as well. With all that being said, though, friends, as the wife rightfully said, I need to get the hell out of here and sleep. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you guys when I see you guys, and be safe.
And thank you, AJ.
Thanks, AJ.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Cheers,
Hi,
friends.
everybody. Nice meeting you
Bye.
all.
Nice meeting you all.
See you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.